Hi everyone, Carter Krishnaiyer here for Beyond the Boundary, the From the Pavilion podcast on Beyond the Boundary. We're also simulcasting on Beyond the 90 during this T20 World Cup. And our World Cup coverage is brought to you by the Boca Raton Tribune, your closest neighbor in South Florida, and the best cricket coverage in the state of Florida. So, wanted to talk about England, who of course won this tournament 2 editions ago. Their journey to the Super 8 has been marked by a combination of some individual brilliance, some tenacity in their middle order, and a powerful bowling arsenal. Now, at the same time, there have been all kinds of problems. So let's start with the positive. We can start with the positivity of Will Jacks and how well he's done. Will Jacks has undeniably been the talisman for England in this tournament. And he has an uncanny ability to accelerate the scoring rate at critical moments, the run rate at critical moments, as we saw against both Nepal and Italy, 2 matches where England was tested in. He had 53 runs off of just 22 balls against Italy. That's more than a brace a ball. And this brutal assault that he had was critical because England hit the 200 mark, but again, just hung on because of some other issues. But very, very positive. His versatility allows him to be used in various roles, and I think that's important. A middle order resiliency also has been there with Tom Banton. He had 63 against Scotland. That was very, very important, I think, for England in that in that particular match, because there has been a lot of issues around the England batting lineup. So the middle order resilience has saved England in multiple matches, precarious matches. Italy, Scotland, Nepal. So the ability to manage pressure in that middle of the order has been quite good. And in fact, I talked about this earlier in the tournament and how I was impressed by the composure of some of the English players, particularly the younger ones that have performed, because you have a number of key parts of the 2019 World Cup champions and the 2022 T20 champions, one-day World Cup. Let's separate them, because now it feels like, in terms of international attention, the T20 World Cup has superseded of the ODI World Cup, the traditional World Cup. So basically, two-time world champions. A lot of them not on the squad. They've kind of aged out. They've been phased out, and we have had. We have seen England bowl well at times. Jofra Archer is the spearhead as always. He's shown unmistakable flashes of his best that we have seen in tournaments for England, which we've seen in the IPL. He was best bowler for a couple of seasons, couple of tournaments in the IPL. And he is one of the genuine pace threats in all of world cricket. Sam Curran and Jamie Overton have had their moments bowling. Curran has had his moments batting as well. And Adil Rashid has not had the best tournament, but I think when England's really needed him, he's shown up. Although his loose bowling at times has allowed for some of these matches to be tough. But then there's been a late innings surge in 3 of the England matches, and those are the 3 matches they won. And this underscores the raw firepower and the depth of the lineup England has. Think about this against Italy. They did have 88 runs in the final 6 overs, and they needed every bit of that to hang on, as Italy really made a match of it. And this is the potent type of depth you need to advance in this tournament and win this tournament ultimately. And going to Sri Lanka, where I think England's batting probably continues on the same trajectory, and the bowling, the tracks there, they grip the ball a little more. Spinners have more luck, more success there. Perhaps we will see fewer runs conceded by England in the Super 8s down in Sri Lanka. Now, let's talk about the negatives, which are numerous. it's been an unsettling tournament so far for England. We have seen just lots of deficiencies. The opening partnership of Jos Buttler and Phil Salt, which you would think would be super reliable given the experience of the players, given the pedigree of those two guys, has been disastrous. Arguably the worst opening partnership in the entire tournament, and I'm including the really poor sides, the UAE, Oman, Canada. I'm including them in this conversation. Buttler and Salt have not set the tempo, right? What they've done is they've created a situation England has to dig out of in every match. They dug out of it in 3 of the 4 matches. They did not dig out of it against the West Indies, who is the sort of superior opponent they're going to face in the Super 8s. So that is not good. Salt has not been effective whatsoever and has kind of snatched at balls. You know, these two have so much history. Buttler has now kind of gone cold for a while, even in the lead up to the tournament, and I think you don't like to take a lot of dot balls early, right? But you can't just snatch at balls, and particularly against the kind of superior opposition you're going to face in the Super 8s, and if you get beyond that in the semifinals and the finals, presumably you're going to face a South Africa or an India. When you get past this stage, if you get past this stage, you can't have that kind of that kind of ineptitude, and basically because they've been so poor, the middle of the order, which has produced, has been stripped of its kind of freedom and its ability to kind of swing loosely and play the sort of cricket I think they want to play. And so there's been a fragility that's been created by that Salt-Buttler partnership. And I don't know what happens with that. I don't know if Harry Brook is thinking there has to be some sort of significant change. There has been, I think, a tactical drift. I mean, the team has not had a consistency or a focus in this tournament. And I know that they're hammering them on TalkSport and they're hammering them on Sky Sports. I see the same coverage that everyone else sees. And there is a very unsettling aspect to this England team. And as I've said before, no squad faces the sort of, well, India does too. India and England are the two squads that if something goes wrong, they face all kinds of criticism back home. Things have not got, I mean, Australia's out of this tournament, but there is a different level of kind of maturity, or that's the wrong term, because I don't want to criticize criticism. But there's a different tone when Australia struggles in tournaments than when England struggles or when India struggles. And this is universal for England across all sports. Just go back and listen to the coverage during the 2014 FIFA World Cup or the 2016 UEFA Euros, if you want to know how the English media handles these sorts of things, or even go further back in different football World Cups of 2006. Just not crazy, like maniacal. But the death bowling execution has been really poor for England, which is why Nepal, Italy, and even kind of Scotland threatened them. So there's an inability of their key bowlers. This includes Rashid, although I'm trying to kind of say he has had his moments. This includes Jofra Archer. This includes Sam Curran. This includes Jax, who we talked about how great he was. They let him bowl one over in a recent match. I think it was the Italy match. And it was disastrous. There has been a lack of contingency planning, and it feels like, okay, there's just one plan we decided on before the match. This is how you're going to bowl in the death overs. Well, bowling the way they have bowled in the death overs based on a predetermined plan has given both Italy and Nepal a run at it. Not as much Scotland, but Italy and Nepal for sure. Nepal especially, a run for it. lapse and undisciplined bowling has opened the door for opposition. So if you do that in the Super 8s, you're going to get beat, okay? You might get beat in all 3 matches. So the near misses, right? We talked about the near miss, the 4-run victory against Nepal, which in hindsight is a terrible result. We talked about how poor the match was against Italy in spite of the great run production. Although, again, the middle of the order had to go hard because of the opening partnership completely flopping. And the bowling unit has been exposed time and again. And I would say the most obvious thing was that when they played the West Indies, they got ripped to pieces in critical overs, critical balls, deliveries that were loose at the wrong time, deliveries that were short and very gettable for West Indies batters at critical moments in the match. Okay, you can go back and look at a scorecard and say, okay, well, Archer bowled this way and Rashid, he was in Sam Curran, but I'm telling you, if you go back and watch the match, critical moments, there were loose deliveries. That killed them and killed any momentum. Whether this is due to a lack of control, whether it's a poor choice of variation, whether it's again sticking to a predetermined plan, it hasn't worked. So, in summary, I think England, they have the potential to turn this thing around, but there has been a terrible top of the order. There's been loose bowling. There has been a middle order that is susceptible to spin. Well, I didn't bring that up earlier. Okay, so the middle of the order, when you get them, is when the spinners are used. Now, playing in Sri Lanka, I'm playing against Sri Lanka, who will be one of their Super 8 opponents. That's a killer. And we saw how that impacted Australia. So I think that's a problem. I think there's strategic errors being made, and I really think, in spite of getting to this stage, if England is going to contend to win this World Cup, there has to be a profound turnaround, and that includes the individual form of the top 2 batters, of Buttler and Salt, and maybe different level of leadership from Harry Brook, or this thing, they're going to be out in the Super 8s, and the Super 8s could be, I mean, you sometimes, if you go to the Super 8s and you lose all 3 matches, you sometimes empathize with the side like Australia that got bounced out in the group stage without facing the embarrassment of what might happen to England here. So, but they have the squad. They still have the players to turn things around, and I think Bethel's a player I mentioned that I've been very impressed with in terms of his mentality for such a young player. I really do like him, and I think Banton has been an sung hero in this tournament so far for England. And then, of course, we've talked about how good Jacks has been with the bat. So there is the ability to win matches, but they're going to have to outscore teams, which is not where you want to be, right? You want to have some control over matches. And I guess if I had to summarize all of this, England has lacked control. Full stop. That's the issue.